Hi, I'm Chris, welcome back to FRAG-MENTAL. Thank you very much for joining me. I recently decided to revisit some of the fragrances I bought when I first started this channel 5 years ago, back in 2017. Trends change, hype fades, so I want to ask the question, are these fragrances still good in 2022? When I first started this channel, I needed fragrances to talk about. I needed content for videos, but I also wanted to buy fragrances that were good. So the fragrances in this video were getting a lot of hype at the time. Many people out there were saying they were good, which is why I initially bought them. I've got 6 fragrances to talk about in this video, and every single one of these takes me back to those first few weeks of starting my channel. The feeling of nerves talking to the camera for the first time, because let me tell you, when you start doing that, it feels really weird. I was worrying about what the comments would be. Would it even get any views? Initially they didn't really, but then thankfully eventually they did. So all of these have a bit of a nostalgia factor for me, but I'm going to try and separate myself from the nostalgia and decide if these fragrances are as good in 2022 as I thought they were in 2017. The first fragrance I bought before I'd even started my channel, a friend of mine put me onto it. I smelled this and it blew me away. It's one of the reasons I decided to start this channel, because suddenly I smelled this and I became passionate about fragrance, about what fragrance could be. It's Tom Ford's Oud Wood, and I think this was either my first or maybe second video, and if I'm being honest, it's a pretty cringy video. It's still up there, check it out if you want. Anyway, Oud Wood is a magical potion combining wood, spices and a very clean, palatable oud, but it's now 15 years old. Is it still as bewitching today as it was when it was first released? My opinion is yes. This was a game changer when it was released. It certainly changed the game for me in terms of what I thought fragrances could smell like. I think it's still relevant. I don't think it's dated. In fact, I don't know if it will ever date. It seems to have this sort of time-resistant DNA. It was jaw-droppingly good in 2007 on its release. It was still just as good in 2017 when I bought this, and I think it is just as good right here, right now, today in 2022. Next up is a fragrance that had only been released for 2 years before I started this channel. It came out in 2015, and already in that short space of time, already it was getting a bit of a bad rep for being a fragrance that you just smelled everywhere. Dior Sauvage. When I first smelled this, I realized why it was so popular, because it was good. So what is Sauvage? Why was it so popular? Why did it smell so good? Well, it just smelled clean. It was very accessible. Everyone enjoyed it. It wasn't overly complex, a relatively simple fragrance. It has fresh, juicy citrus, spicy pepper, and maybe a little smidge of ambroxan, maybe just a little bit. This is precision engineered to appeal to everyone, to appeal to the masses, to appeal to the mainstream, which is why it became so popular. Is it still good in 2022? Here's the thing, I think this fragrance was almost too good for its own good when it was released. It's still a nice composition, I still quite enjoy smelling this, but a hugely successful ad campaign and a relatively affordable price made this the signature scent of pretty much the whole of Earth for a while there. I still smell this everywhere. It doesn't have the street cred that it once had. If it did ever have any, maybe just a bit of street cred for a few months back there. But because of those reasons, I'm gonna say Dior Sauvage 2015, the EDT, is no longer still good in 2022. Elixir, on the other hand, I distinctly remember going into the store and buying this next fragrance, still with Jeremy Fragrance's words echoing through my mind. This was a super hyped fragrance by Jeremy, by lots of other people. It's Spicebomb Extreme. This was love at first spray. Spices, vanilla, tobacco. This blew my mind in 2017. I remember absolutely adoring it. It's a beautiful scent that somehow manages to be exciting yet comforting at the same time. It excels in the cooler weather. Within that cooler weather, it's an incredibly versatile fragrance. Date night, office, casual, in the club, whatever. Great versatility. Big on vanilla, which is still a very on-trend note and probably always will be. I don't think this is dated at all. Blew my mind in 2017. Is it still good in 2022? Hell yeah. Next, it's another 2015 release. This was in all the lists, it was getting all the hype, and I actually bought the perfume parlor clone of this fragrance, which is very close, and I loved it. I loved it so much, I bought a bottle of Dolce & Gabbana's The One. This is the EDP version. It's a sweet, spicy, amber tobacco scent with some freshness up top. When I bought this, I still had some of my perfume parlor bottle left, so by the time I'd finished that, I was kind of already moving on to other things. I was smelling other fragrances that to me just smell a little more interesting, maybe a little more complex, which is why I've not worn this a tremendous amount. You can see from the level on the bottle. I've worn it a bit over the years. In fact, I wore this just the other day and I really enjoyed it, but there was just something about it that didn't feel quite as on trend as when I first smelled this in 2017. But it's a lovely scent. When I'm in the mood, it still satisfies. I was sort of on the fence with this. I was thinking, is it still good in 2022? But you know what? It just creeps in. It just creeps in to the category of still being good in 2022. So Dolce & Gabbana's The One EDP is safe. Do you think it's still good in 2022? Or are some of its newer flankers better and more relevant? Let me know in the comments. So this next one is my most worn fragrance of all time. This was my signature scent for about a decade. Jean-Paul Gaultier's La Malle. By the time I started this channel, I'd run out of La Malle years before, but I rebought it when I first started my channel because it was a fragrance that meant a lot to me, and I knew I'd want to talk about it, and I knew I'd want to include it in some lists, and also I really wanted to revisit the smell. Another industry game changer, one of my most beloved smells, but there's a couple of problems. It's not quite the same smell that it once was. It's no longer as bold or as daring. It doesn't grab attention in the same way that it used to, and it's become a bit overplayed after all these years. It's not as cool and as fashionable as it once was. These days, I think more relevant and fragrances that I would choose to reach for more often are the newer La Malle Le Parfum, which I think is a really nice modern interpretation of the La Malle DNA. And another one that friends tell me reminds them of vintage La Malle is Amouage Reflection 45. Not so much Reflection Man, although some people do compare that to smelling a little bit like La Malle. Reflection 45 has that bold, daring quality that La Malle had when it was first released. Despite all the nostalgia I have for this fragrance, reformulation and the passage of time have lessened its glow. I'm gonna say La Malle is no longer still good in 2022. After 27 years of good service, it might be finally time for La Malle to retire. Great Britain has a new king, but can the king of the niche fragrance world retain its crown after 12 years in power? Is Creed Aventus still good in 2022? Aventus is one of the best-selling fragrances in the world. Its winning combination of mass-appealing freshness and weighty gravitas wowed me in 2017. I actually bought this blind off a Facebook group based on all the hype. I got a reasonable price on this and it didn't disappoint. I think it's an incredible fragrance. Still love Aventus, but with recent accusations that Creed have maybe told a few porcupines over the years. Not by me, but there is literature out there that makes those claims. Check out the Ghost Perfumer. On top of that, all the clones of Aventus over the years. Has this dimmed the light of the king? Is it time for the king of niche fragrances to end its reign? After 12 years, is this still good in 2022? Come on, guys. You know it is. This is an incredible fragrance, arguably not quite as incredible as it once was, but we're not going to go into that in this video. Very versatile scent. It still has the power to wow people wherever you go. Another one that has thick time armor. For those reasons, of course, Aventus is still good in 2022. Okay, so look, just having a little bit of fun with this video. If you still love La Malle and Sauvage, of course, for you, they are still good in 2022. And I do still enjoy them. I just thought it'd be interesting to see if I still felt the same way about them as I did when I first smelled them. This has just been some fun opinions on these fragrances. Do you think there are any fragrances that you once smelled a few years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Do you think they're still good in 2022? Do fragrances date? Do they go out of fashion? Interesting subject. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. Spicy bomb, spice bomb, yum, spice bomb, yum, spice bomb. Love at first spray from my Spicebomb Extreme. Spices, vanilla, tobacco. This blew my mind back in 2017. After 27 years of good service, it might be finally time for Lamal to retire.